So what needs to happen is the United States needs to wake up to reality. Our neoconservatives, starting with Bush Sr., then Clinton, then Bush Jr., then Obama, then Trump, then Biden, all of them have continued on this deep state path of expanding the U.S. military to Ukraine. This is what needs to end. Then the war will end immediately.
This is Professor Jeffrey Sachs, an American economist who has emerged as one of the most rational voices in the United States on global affairs. Professor Sachs isn't afraid to speak the truth about the US government's involvement in numerous conflicts around the world. And in today's video, I sit down with the professor to talk about the future of the Ukraine war. For the better part of 3 years, Western media has misled the public on the Ukraine war. Take, for example, this February 2024 article from the National Interest, which reports that Putin has big plans to recreate the Russian Empire. The media wants you to believe that Putin is on a quest to revive the former Soviet Union, and after he conquers Ukraine, he will threaten Western Europe with war. It's a bold claim, but there is no actual evidence to support it, and simple logic will tell you that Russia doesn't even have the military capacity to achieve such a goal. Professor Sachs cuts through the noise and tells us exactly who is fighting this war with Russia.
First, it's a Russia-US conflict. Ukraine is the place where the fighting is taking place. It's where people are dying. But this is a conflict between the United States and Russia.
In today's interview, Professor Sachs will reveal the complex history of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, what is happening with North Korean troops fighting in Ukraine, and how U.S. citizens changed the future of this war with the re-election of Donald Trump as president. If you want to understand the truth about Ukraine and where this conflict is going in 2025, this is the video for you. Let's begin. A lot of people think that this war started in 2022. I think we all know that it actually started much earlier than that. What's the biggest misconceptions about the Russia-Ukraine conflict that most people don't understand?
First, it's a Russia-US conflict. Ukraine is the place where the fighting is taking place. It's where people are dying. But this is a conflict between the United States and Russia. This war arose because the United States decided back in the 1990s, after the end of the Soviet Union, that now the U.S. could spread its military power and its geopolitical power more generally to the east, to surround Russia, perhaps even to break up Russia. What we are observing is part of a long-term U.S. strategy aiming at global dominance. Back in 1990, when the Soviet Union was still there and President Mikhail Gorbachev was leading the Soviet Union and making peace and ending the Cold War, he was required to approve the reunification of Germany because the Soviet Union was one of the 4 occupying powers, and it had legal authority to approve or to block German reunification. As that was being discussed in early 1990, the United States and Germany said absolutely, as clearly as can be, the US and Germany would never take advantage of the Soviet Union through unification, and that in fact, as Secretary of State James Baker said on February 9th, 1990 to Gorbachev, NATO, that is the US military alliance, will not move 1 inch eastward in the event that the Soviet Union approves German reunification. Gorbachev said that's very important.
Right.
And that pledge was reiterated by Hans-Dietrich Genscher, the German foreign minister, and repeatedly by NATO and by US and European leaders. Of course, the US then cheated. The Soviet Union ended in December 1991. Russia is legally the continuation state and the successor state. That means the treaties, the agreements apply. The United States, under Bill Clinton in 1994, based on plans already concocted by Cheney and Wolfowitz in the final year of the Bush administration, began NATO enlargement eastward. And the idea was to weaken Russia, to close Russia's access to the Eastern Mediterranean, to surround Russia in the Black Sea region so that Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Georgia would all be NATO countries, thereby surrounding Russia where its naval fleet has been since 1783 in Crimea, in Sevastopol. This was the plan. The Russians were absolutely opposed and aghast, and this plan went forward for 30 years. The U.S. government has lied, it has cheated, it has overthrown a government in Ukraine in February 2022, 2014, the Yanukovych government.
Right.
It was part of a very typical U.S. regime change operation. Yanukovych's fault from the U.S. point of view is that he favored neutrality, not NATO membership. He was standing in the way of this U.S. power grab. All of this, by the way, was described in 1997 by Zbigniew Brzezinski in a couple of places, one in an article in Foreign Affairs magazine, and second in his book called The Grand Chessboard.
Right.
And in the Grand Chessboard, Brzezinski says, we can do it. Russia will have no alternative but to fall in line. That was their gambit.
Wow.
And of course, it was completely wrong. Ukraine, not Ukraine, the side that was part of the coup basically became both a U.S. vassal and a radical regime, saying, okay, we have the United States military on our side.
Right.
Will defeat Russia. This was reckless and foolhardy. Now Zelensky, of course, could not win an actual vote. He rules by decree as an unelected official because his term ended a long time ago. So all of this is a tragedy, but it's a U.S. provoked tragedy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that history and your extensive knowledge on this. I want to talk a little bit as of right now. We're in November 2024 that we have North Korean troops that have been deployed, and it just seems like this conflict is growing. What is really your predictions for the next few months as we, continue to see this conflict unfold? How do you see the future going?
On the ground in the war, Russia is winning. It is taking territory every day. Around 2,000 Ukrainians are dying or severely wounded every day. Ukraine has been worn down. Russia is accelerating its advance. So this is the reality. Not at all surprising, denied even until today by the Western mainstream media and the U.S. propaganda coming out of the White House or the State Department. But this is the ground reality.
Right.
So the hardliners say, well, we should now attack Russia inside Russian territory, in fact, far inside Russian territory, with missiles that would require U.S. programming and the U.S. support to target and to launch. The Russians have said, if you do that, we are at direct war with the United States and we will retaliate as we see fit. The British, who are perhaps the most irresponsible government in the world, actually, that's saying a lot. They talk big as if they're the big British Empire, but basically they're trying to get the U.S. into World War III. Their prime minister came over to Washington and said, yeah, we should attack Russia. That means you, the United States.
Right.
This time the Pentagon said no. I hope it continues to say no, because that could escalate to nuclear war if we started that. And we need to be absolutely aware of that. What should be done is what should have been done 30 years ago, what should have been done a decade ago, what should have been done in 2021, what should have been done in 2022. And that is to say, this whole NATO enlargement business, this is a provocation. It's dangerous. It puts the United States right up against Russia. It is viewed by Russia as a fundamental threat to national security, just as the United States would view it if Russia tried to set up a military base and missile systems on the Rio Grande in Mexico, for example. This would not go down well. The United States would say, oh, that's no problem at all. We nearly went to nuclear war over exactly that issue in Cuba in 1962. So what needs to happen is the United States needs to wake up to reality. Our neoconservatives, starting with Bush Sr., then Clinton, then Bush Jr., then Obama, then Trump, then Biden, all of them have continued on this deep state path of expanding the U.S. military to Ukraine. This is what needs to end, then the war will end immediately. Set the new borders, exactly what's going to happen. Okay, that is going to take a little bit of time, but this is a war about Russia's understandable perception about its fundamental national security because of the U.S. push for NATO enlargement and for missile systems and weapon systems going to the east to surround Russia. That's what this war is about. Right. That's how this war needs to end.
Do you think the U.S. government will be able to swallow their pride and admit that they've made a mistake and actually make this pivot? Or are we just going to continue to see them preach this message that, we stand with Ukraine because it's democracy, Russia's the bad guys, we're going to keep fighting, and these neocons are going to keep pushing us?
On this particular issue, Trump and Vance say, yes, they will stop the war, basically because they see that this is a mess that the U.S. got into. Vance has been especially clear on all of this point. On other wars, a little bit different, but on this issue, Trump and Vance say this. Right. At the same time, Harris says the opposite. She's filled with bravado and I think utterly misguided policy of the last 5 presidents, including her own administration. All the rhetoric, we need to stand tall, we need to defeat Putin, we need to do this, we need to do that, all of which is failing, but as it fails, pushes us also closer to nuclear war.
Professor Sachs brings up a great point here. The actions of the U.S. government are pushing the world closer to nuclear war, and Donald Trump's willingness and desire to end this war in Ukraine was a major factor in him winning the U.S. election this year. In fact, here is University of Chicago professor John Mearsheimer, just days before the U.S. election, explaining how Trump's stance on global wars helped propel him to victory.
I think it's quite clear that Trump would be less aggressive. I think Trump is not a warmonger. I think that Kamala Harris, like Joe Biden, they're basically warmongers. They've never seen a war that they didn't want to fight. I think in contrast, Trump is not interested in fighting wars. And I think where you see this most clearly manifested is in Europe. I mean, what Trump wants to do is shut down the war in Ukraine. He wants to have good relations with Putin and more generally good relations with the Russians.
Throughout his campaign, Donald Trump has preached to the world that he will bring peace to Europe and also bring Putin and Zelensky to the negotiating table. Trump has even boasted that he will end this conflict before his inauguration on January 20th. So there is a lot of pressure on Trump to deliver on one of the biggest promises of his political campaign. But we now have the first look at what that potential resolution might be. One of Trump's proposals is to create an 800-mile demilitarized zone that would serve as a buffer between Russia and Ukraine, along with a guarantee that Ukraine will not join NATO for the next 20 years. As Professor Sachs revealed in today's interview, NATO expansion was the primary cause of this war. And if Donald Trump can separate himself from the neocons in Washington who perpetually push war and conflict around the world, there is a chance at Europe and the rest of us finally enjoying peace. Everyone, I want to thank you for making it to this point of the video. This is part 1 of a 3-part series with Professor Sachs, as we will next discuss the future of Israel and also the future of US-China relations. However, I do want to switch to the investing portion of today's video. We study geopolitics because it changes and influences the markets around the world. And with Donald Trump winning the US election, this is going to affect every country and every market. Longtime viewers will know that I'm bullish on gold and want to present a unique opportunity in the gold mining space. Take a look at this article from Zero Hedge, which shows that gold has not seen such a big 7-day down move since COVID hit the world. And after this type of liquidation, gold historically surges, so there is a potential opportunity for gold investors. Seriously, by the time I'm done explaining the value proposition of Gold Mining Inc., which is the sponsor of today's video and trades on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol GLDG, you'll see why I call this a rare moment for investors. Gold Mining Inc. is trading for 86 cents right now, which is near its 5-year low, and a very important part of the reason I'm showcasing this right now. Think about it. Spot gold is trading at an all-time high, above $2,680 an ounce, and gold stock ETFs like GDXJ, which aggregates select junior gold mining stocks, is trading near its 52-week high. Recently, Bank of America predicted that gold could hit $3,000 by the end of 2025. First off, GLDG's historic performance is displayed on the screen, and it's very noticeable that it is unique. In select previous instances where Gold Mining Inc. has performed well, we track performance against gold price during a bullish run in the price of gold, and here it is. In 2015 to 2016, there was a 525% increase, and in 2019 through 2020, another 400% increase. So let's talk about gold mining's near-term catalyst. The company owns 80% of an Alaskan gold exploration and development company, US Gold Mining Inc. It's a position that is currently worth around $80 million US. That company is in the middle of a drill program now. The company owns $30 million position in Gold Royalty Corp, one of the fastest growing royalty companies in the natural resource sector. Gold Mining Inc. owns 75% of a uranium project that gets almost zero attention, even though the founder of the company and its present co-chairman is Mr. Amir Adani, the founder of Uranium Energy Corp, a multi-billion-dollar uranium company. Think about that for a second. The project is located in the Athabasca Basin in Alberta, Canada, one of the best uranium areas around the globe, and it is co-owned with French uranium giant Orano. The value proposition is as follows. GLDG market cap, 175 million. Ownership stake of USGO, 80 million. Ownership stake of GROY, 30 million, and the enterprise value of 65 million. What one is getting for 65 million is ownership of 12 gold projects with gold equivalent resources, which I'll detail shortly. When the company originally acquired their dozen gold projects, the peak combined market caps of the companies that held them was approximately 850 million Canadian dollars, which during the period 2010 to 2012 was much closer to par with the US dollar than today. The combined peak market cap was calculated based on each respective company's peak share price during the period prior to acquisition. Peak market cap of companies acquired, 850 million Canadian in 2010 to 2012. Current market cap of Gold Mining Inc., 175 million US dollars in 2024. The gold spot price in 2011 was $19.25, but in 2024 is $2,750. It's very obvious there is a disconnect between the price of gold and the value of this gold company, which creates an opportunity in the market. But let's break down the projects Gold Mining Inc. owns and where they are currently mining. Gold Mining Inc. owns a total of 11 projects containing 12.5 million ounces of gold equivalent resources in the measured and indicated category, and an additional 9.7 million ounces of gold equivalent resources in the inferred category. The value that the market is ascribing these resources is $65 million. Can you do the math on how much this comes out to per ounce? A shareholder of Gold Mining Inc. at today's prices is getting GLDG at its 5-year lows and indirectly enjoys exposure to GROY and USGO near their all-time lows, right before the Federal Reserve rate cutting policy is slated to begin. In addition, a shareholder of Gold Mining Inc. is getting a portfolio of 11 gold projects in the 2 categories of resources, containing 12.5 million gold equivalent ounces and an additional 9.7 million inferred for just USD 65 million. Let's do a quick recap. In 2011, these 11 gold projects were owned by other companies before Gold Mining Inc. acquired them for 81 million Canadian in a bear market. Their combined market cap was 850 million, but the price of gold has doubled since then and expected to rise higher in the future, creating a great value play for gold mining stocks like Gold Mining Inc. But I'm giving you all of this information so that you can do your own homework before making any investments. And everybody, please do your own due diligence on this company, dive into their financials. Of course, it's all public as they are a publicly traded company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And once again, here is their ticker down on the screen. I'll include the investor presentation, the website, and additional information all in the video description down below. Once again, I want to thank them for sponsoring today's new update, and I look forward to seeing you all in our next video soon.